Hello, book lovers. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in to another video. And let me just get my script ready. Sorry. Okay. So, oh, wait a minute. What's happening? I've broken something. Okay. All right. Okay. What are we talking about today? So, what are we talking about today? What are we talking about today? Okay, hold on a second. I just lost my little script that I was going to use. Where? Come on. Okay, sorry about that. All right, okay, so we're talking about science fiction today, and science fiction has, okay, of course, long been a space for exploring big ideas, technology, philosophy, alternate histories. But did you know that Korean sci fi is one of the most fascinating and underappreciated genres out there? So, in this review, I'm diving into Readymade Bodhisattva. Ready-Made Bodhisattva. So the first ever major collection of South Korean science fiction in English. It's an anthology that blends robots, politics, dystopian futures, and philosophical debates, all through a uniquely Korean lens. So let's take a closer look. So, science fiction from South Korea has been translated in various journals before, but Ready-Made Bodhisattva is the first full-length anthology dedicated to Korean sci-fi in English. The book was edited and compiled by two experts who have spent their careers studying Korean speculative fiction. So Park Sang-jun is a professor at Hanyang University and Seoul National University and is known for translating numerous sci-fi books into Korean and running a sci-fi journal. And the other editor is Park Son-young, who's a professor at the University of Southern California, specializing in Korean literature and culture. And together they argue that Korean sci-fi is unique because it reflects the country's techno-cultural schizophrenia. This meaning that South Korea is a country with one foot in the future as a global tech leader, yet still haunted by its Cold War past. And this tension creates fascinating, thought provoking sci fi that feels unlike anything else in the genre. And the anthology features stories from a mix of classic and contemporary Korean writers, including Park Min-gyu, Kim Young-ha, Choi In-hoon, Chong So-yeon, and Park Song-hwan, as well as many more. And so, anyway, let's start with the title story. So, the collection is named after Park Song-hwan's story, Ready-Made Bodhisattva, and it's the first piece in the anthology. The story was first published in 2004, and it was Park Song-hwan's debut story, and it actually won multiple awards and established him, or certainly set him on the path to being seen as a major sci-fi writer. The story deals with robots and artificial intelligence and tackles the classic sci fi question, what happens when a machine achieves consciousness? The setting is a Buddhist temple in the near future. In this world, robots are mass produced to perform mundane tasks, cooking, cleaning, maintenance, and so on. But then something strange happens. So, an engineer is called to the temple because one of their cleaning robots is malfunctioning. The monks, however, claim that the robot has achieved enlightenment. The head monk believes the machine has reached nirvana and is essentially a new Buddha. So, this premise blends classic sci fi themes with Korean Buddhist philosophy, offering a unique take on the machine consciousness debate. The tension builds when the head of the robotics corporation arrives and warns that this robot is a dagger pointed at the throat of all humanity. At its core, this story is a philosophical battle between technology and spirituality, and it sets the tone for the entire collection. There's also there are also stories in this book which blend science fiction with Korean politics. So we'll see some of the stories tackling South Korea's political history, but using sci-fi elements to do so. So, for example, the anthology features Choi In-hoon's Empire Radio live transmission, and this was this is actually this isn't the full story contained in the Readymade Bodhisattva collection. So Empire Radio live transmission, I think there are 4 sections to it, and there's a section of it is contained here. But the entire story, sorry, this so it was first published in 1967, and the full work imagines an alternate history of Korea, which as if so it's written as a transcript of a Japanese governor general giving a broadcast in an alternate timeline where Japan still rules Korea. So the narrator rants about politics, empire, and power, making it feel like an eerie, dystopian radio monologue. And this concept is very fascinating, but it's very dense and deeply tied to its historical context. So readers unfamiliar with Korean history might find it difficult to fully appreciate. But then we also have stories which tackle social issues. So, for example, if we think about a story called Cosmic Go, so this is beyond politics. Some stories in the collection explore social issues through sci-fi storytelling, and Cosmic Go by Chong So-yeon is one such highlight. So this story is set in a near future where humanity has colonized other planets. The protagonist is a young woman who is paralyzed from the waist down, but is obsessed with space travel. She dreams of going into space, but she's constantly reminded that the world excludes people like her. It's a powerful story that reflects on how disabled people are excluded from social spaces, how that exclusion might change or stay the same in the future. And it's also about the game of Go as a metaphor for strategy, power, and exclusion. And Chong So-yeon, the writer, is also a lawyer and a literary translator. And she said that she writes sci-fi for the here and now, meaning that even though her stories take place in the future, they're ultimately about issues that we are dealing with today. Now, let me spend a little bit more time to focus on my favorite story in the collection, which is Roadkill by Park Min-gyu. And Roadkill is a celebrated science fiction story originally published in Korea in 2011 in the Cheumgwa Moum journal. It would go on to win the highly regarded Oh Yong-soo Literary Award later that year. And it has actually been translated and published twice in English. So the first time it was published, and it was published in 2013. So Esther Song's translation was published in the Azalea Journal of Korean Literature and Culture. When they did a special feature on contemporary science fiction. So a significant part of this episode of Azalea is about Korean science fiction. So there's several science fiction stories. So you've got a story by Bae Myung-hoon, Han Yu-ju, and various other people. But then the second time Roadkill by Park Min-gyu was published, it was in the Readymade Bodhisattva collection. And here, the translation is credited to Esther Song and someone going by the name of Gord Seller. So so anyway, this was the second time it was published. So anyway, yes. So if you've watched the channel before, you'll know that I've reviewed some of Park Min-gyu's short stories before, and that his work is often surreal, bizarre, and humorous, while while retaining a strong sense of empathy for his characters. So, and we can see all of these elements in Roadkill. In which Park fully embraces the sci-fi genre. So Roadkill is set in a not too distant future when countries have been replaced by corporations. The countries of Asia have all been amalgamated into one mega corporation. simply called Asia, which exists as a technocratic future state. And the poor and disenfranchised workers of previous decades, previous centuries, are no longer necessary. I'm so sorry, excuse me. So yeah, the previous sort of working class is no longer necessary, and these poor souls amass along the border, with some making the desperate attempt to break in to this sort of walled, futuristic city. And it's an excellent story that draws on issues from our world today, obviously, and extrapolates what the future could look like if we don't change course. And so, if it sounds like Park is writing about a lot of big issues in this story, you'd be correct. So, we can find things like corporatization, immigration, wealth inequality. So, how does Park bring these elements into the story? So, Roadkill really has two storylines that eventually connect unexpectedly. In the first, we are introduced to two robots who patrol the border between the Asia mega corporation and the outside world. The robots are called Maxi and Mao. Maxi and Mao, and their job specifically is to remove the dead bodies of those who have tried to cross the ultra fast shuttle system on the border and been hit by a train. So, this is how the story begins, with the two robots clearing away the remains of some poor, unfortunate souls. And Makshi is the main character here, and as is often the case in stories like this, Makshi the robot seems to be becoming aware that something perhaps isn't quite right with his existence. Why, Makshi wonders, are humans so careless with their lives? Makshi is also getting bored with his work and starting to wonder, what does it all mean? So, of course, this is another very familiar sci-fi trope, the robot that becomes sentient and gains consciousness. But let's see what the other storyline in Roadkill is. So, the other strand is also equally gripping. It's set in a gambling den in the sort of slum area outside of the Asia mega corporation. So imagine a crime-ridden dystopian cyberpunk shantytown. We have a young man who is facing off against an older man in a game of Russian roulette for a crowd of yelling gamblers. The young man has won 8 such similar matches in the past. The older man is a legendarily lucky survivor of several dozen such matches. And as they drink, smoke, and take turns putting the gun to their head, they have a conversation about the world they live in and what it was like in the past. The older man can remember a time when he had a family and a career and went on holidays. And this was before technology advanced and removed the need for workers, making him literally redundant. The younger man grew up in a world after this when the jobs had already vanished, and only a select few could live within the walls of the techno utopia nation states. Instead, he lives among a seething mass of humanity with no real family, just a few gang members he relies on, but who might turn on him at any moment. So, is this world approaching us? These days, the excitement and fears around AI have brought these concerns to the fore once again, and they're exactly the concerns that Park is writing about in this story. So, what is Park saying about our relationship with technology here? So, there's a lot of things to say about this. It's very much a part of this dystopian trend we can find in a lot of science fiction, and certainly in a lot of Korean science fiction. So, if you think about some of the other science fiction books and stories translated in recent years, so books by writers such as Bae Myung-hoon, Kim Bo-young, Kim Chang-gyu, and so on, many of them depict the future as dystopian. So, and Sun Young Park writes that one of the features of Korean sci-fi is a strong sense of the apocalypse having already happened, whether through war, colonization, dictatorship, or the corporate monopolization of resources. Technophilia, utopia, and an optimistic vision are rarely to be found. So Park's story fits perfectly with these anxieties. It's a story worried about technological development and corporate power. The story also asks us to compare and contrast the lives of its robot protagonist and its human protagonist. Shin Herin writes in Azalea, if robots are the crystallization of human rationality and the pulsing vitality of human desire, we see in the unfortunate fate of the refugees invariably qualify as roadkill. What or who is left to define, perceive, and walk the road? What is the point? Park seems to be asking of developing the technology if it leads us to this position where the mass of humanity is discarded. It's another fantastic Park Min-gyu story. It's a thought-provoking sci-fi story and a great example of several trends in Korean sci-fi in general. And like I said, it's my favorite story in Readymade Bodhisattva. And you should definitely pick this up. And the Azalea Journal with the Sci-Fi Special is also fantastic. And so, if you're interested, if you're a sci-fi fan, you're looking for something new and unique, I recommend both of those. If you're just curious about the history of Korean science fiction, you should also pick them up. And if you just enjoy sci-fi that explores deep philosophical and social issues, Ready-Made Bodhisattva is a great choice. The collection spans stories from the 1960s to the 2010s. And so it offers a broad look at how Korean sci fi has evolved over time. It also includes two fantastic essays on the history of Korean sci fi, giving readers more context on how the genre developed in a country balancing rapid modernization with unresolved historical wounds. That said, this book may not be for casual readers. Some stories are philosophical or experimental or deeply tied to Korean history, which could make them challenging for readers unfamiliar with the culture. But if you're willing to dive in, there's certainly a lot to discover. So, what do you think? Have you read any Korean sci fi before? Which of these stories sounds the most interesting to you? So, please leave a comment if you have anything to say. And don't forget to like the video to support the channel. Subscribe for more sci fi and Korean literature reviews, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. And as always, thanks for watching. Take care, and I will see you in the next video. All the best.